Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to askNK. So if you've ever wanted to create terrain, or maybe you're looking for ways to create certain things that looks like landscape, but at the same time you don't have all of the processing power to do this, you don't want to spend so much time, then this amazing toolset known as Terrain Mixer from the guys at BOTANIQ for Blender is definitely something that you should take a look at. Now the whole idea for this is to ease the stress of creating unnecessary stuff, all in the name or all in the bid of creating terrain. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is once you purchase this, let's simply go all the way down. So once you purchase this, you would be able to have access to a Blender file. There's also sets of height maps that you'll be able to get, and then there are other textures that you would also get. Now, getting this is not a problem, but what you would need to do is once you download all of this, you need to make sure that you put all of them in the same folder. Now, once this is done, you can now go in there and fire up Blender, and then you can load up that file directly there. Now, the file which you want to load is the Terrain Mixer 1.7 at the point of recording, and obviously this is going to improve over time. So with the Terrain Mixer open, you will notice that we have a couple of nodes around, and this is very interesting as we're going to walk through most of the essential ones that you need to take a look at. So first things first, you'll notice we'll have a viewport, we have a node section right here, and then we also have another node section right here. We also have one more here and one more here. Your question is, why do we have all of this? Now, depending on what you want to do, you may want to have these things all split apart, or you can simply put all of them together in one particular pane. Now, the beautiful thing about having this is because this is made up of extensive node setup. So there's an extensive node setup that actually takes care of all of this business, and we're going to get into how you can start working with this. Now, before you can even see what you're working on, you need to switch from here over to render. Now, you would also notice that once you go over to your render section, like so, it has automatically been set to cycles. Now, if you have a GPU, you also notice that, the device has been set to GPU, so you don't have to worry about that. How do you work with this? So by default, once you're working with terrains, you have to go in there, build these terrains yourself, drag a couple of sliders. But if you want to get something that is just going to render really quick and you don't necessarily need all the time in the world to start getting those crazy geometries around, then of course you can take a look at this one and actually get up and running with it. Selecting the object, you would notice that once we go over to the modifier, we have just a simple subdivision modifier. You can choose to increase the subdivision modifier or simply turn that down. And then once you're ready to go and you have everything running, you can now simply either keep this the way it is if you want to see it with the texture, or you can go over to this particular node which is called fast shade, and you can run this all the way up so you can see this in gray. But since we're using the NVIDIA RTX 5000, we will crank things all the way up. Now, once we're done with that, you would also notice that for this example, I'm just simply going to, join that right there. Let's also join this other one so we can play with these the way we want. So let's join this, and you can choose to keep it the way, that the developer has kept it, or you can mix match these things however you choose. So you would also notice that on several parts that you have these things called plug in, join in, stuff like that. And these are essentially the kind of maps that you may want to create. So if you want to create an image-based map without snow and sand, of course you can pick this and connect it right there, and automatically it's going to update right here, and you can see that. And once it does, you can also go in towards the part where you have all of the parameters that are responsible and start tweaking these parameters to suit whatever you want. If we go all the way back, you would also notice that we have the color plus snow and sand, so we want to have all of that beautiful stuff. Or you may just simply want a procedural. So depending on what you want to go for, you can just simply turn these things on. So I'm going to stick with color plus snow and sand. And if we simply go all the way to a point like so, you would notice that we have this node called Mixer. Now this is where all the magic happens. Of course, every other thing contributes to this magic, but let's talk about this one for now. So within this Mixer, we can choose to just dial things all the way up. And once we zoom back a little bit, you can start seeing all of these magical wonders. If we dial things a little bit up, you notice that we have that. And if we tone things down, you can also notice what we can get. So it only takes a slider to get these things happening. You can also see that we have different sets of mix. So you can also choose to mix with something totally different to get something else. And then you can also mix with something totally different to actually get something else. So this is going to save you time of creating things one after the other. So if you just want to create some backgrounds, you want to create some landscape, and you want to fly your camera through it, if you zoom right in there, you will now even notice more than ever that you have high details of things that you can work with. Now, the reason why you're having all these high details is because that this is running with a 16K map, and that is why the map file is about 3 point something gig of file. Despite that, there is a huge ton of node mixing, shading stuff that is going on here, which will take you excessive time to create. Now you can also go in there and, you know, make a couple of mix. If you're comfortable with that, you can stick with that. And within this part where we have the color ramp, which has to adjust all of this input, you can still choose to use the color ramp to make some decisions. So we can just tone this all the way like so, and you will notice that we have a smooth transition, and you can also notice what we have right there, and you can punch this all the way to a point like this, and of course you can start noticing all these high peaks that we're creating. Moving over to this section where you have as cascade, we also have certain things that you can play with, like the influence of this particular cascade, and you can also tone that a little bit down, and you can notice that we're having all of that, and we can choose to play with any of these parameters and also get something really cool. If we also go over to this section, you also know that we have the grand shifter, which is like the total shifter altogether, so we can use this to make some shift, and you can see that happening right there. And we can also use this as well to create some very interesting looking stuff. Now, depending on what you want to create at the end of the day, these are totally up to you. You might choose to work with sets like this. You might also choose to work with some other sets. Say, for example, you want to create something that doesn't have to deal with snow and sand. You can also play with the image base without snow and sand and get something even totally different. Now, all of these things are here for you to actually play with and use, and it's just very interesting to see that there is a tool like this that gives you that ease to create amazing stuff. If you would like to also make things like, you know, the maps, you want to create maps for yourself so that you can take it over to a different app and use it, you can still create maps. Link to that documentation is going to be in the description so you can check it out. And of course, if you want to create, or maybe you want to add canyons to this, you can also throw in the canyons and run that through right here. Now, depending on what you want to do, you can easily proceed to start making amazing looking terrains without thinking about what you need and what you don't need. I would simply suggest that you take a look at the documentation and give this a try. And of course, you may also be thinking, what about the sky? So one of the cool things that they've also added with this new one is a fixed sky. So what happens with the fixed sky is once you have this selected, you would notice that automatically we have a fixed sky right here. Now this is good for those who would like to get maybe a character standing right here and at the same time they want to run a sky through it. Or maybe if you're into matte painting, you just don't want to go through all the hassles of creating skies. You just need a fixed sky to kind of complement your scene. Now you have that feature, and of course you can actually turn that right here. And of course you can select the fixed sky and go over to object properties, and right here you can, you know, play with this rotation and see what you can get out of it. And while we're still speaking about the false sky, there's still a couple of things that you can do with it. So first off, we've seen how you can add the false sky, and if you go over to this section where you have your nodes, you can actually change different sky types. So we can change this to something else, and then we can simply toggle through to see which best suits our scene, and then we can take advantage of that. So you can actually create some very interesting stuff by just simply clicking and dragging and, you know, dialing things up and down. And if you go back to the terrain, you can also do a lot more with all of the things that you have here. And if you are feeling excited and you want to play with both the sun, you want to play with all of the settings here, and you cannot select them, all you have to do is click on the show overlays and you'll be able to select these things and move them however you choose, orient them to suit your scene, and you can actually have a swell time working with this. The lighting here is controlled by the sun, and of course you can go over to the lighting section and make some changes to best suit what you're going for. And that's definitely going to be about it. I would like to know what you guys think about this in the comment section. If you're one of those persons looking for faster and easier ways of creating terrains, and you don't want to deal with all of those geometry size, you're just looking for something that's pretty easy, or use some pre-designed stuff already directly here in Blender, then this tool is for you. Link to the documentation and also link to the page where you can buy this is going to be in the description, so you can take a look at both the Gumroad and also the Blender market and see which best suits what you're going for. Tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section, and of course if you like this video or you learned something from this, you can go ahead and give it a like and don't forget to share with a friend. And if you're new here, it's going to be amazing for you to hit the subscribe button and also turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or the next update. And until I see you guys again with a tutorial update, Free Friday, Tutorial Tuesday, tips and tricks, things like this. Peace.